Hi, good afternoon everybody and welcome to Community TV with SW Herts. I'm joined with Chris Ogle. Say hi, Chris.
Chris Ogle, you mean? Hi. Good afternoon to you.
It was deliberate, sorry. So, I just want you to let us know about what you've been up to in the last week.
Right, okay, well, here in good old Watford last week, we didn't have much at the start of the week, but didn't we have much at the start of the week? No, we didn't have much at the start of the week, but on Wednesday we had the Riddiough coffee. That was at, funny enough, at the Riddiough building in Clarendon Road, where we had quite a good crowd there, actually. We had about 10 people there that from different walks of life, different backgrounds. But there was some really interesting people there and some quite new people. We had a young baby there as well, funny enough. Not that she actually knew much about what was going on, but anyway, it was no, but it was quite good fun. So that was on Wednesday, and then later in the week, and I couldn't make this because I had to go north, but Alex Murray looked after this one, and that was the CSR luncheon at the Scotsbridge Mill in Rickmansworth, and that's all about bringing community charities, social enterprises together with businesses to see how we can help each other. And I'll be coming on to that a little bit later again about there's a real opportunity here in the community to do some really special things. But I don't know, there's some with charities, it's one of these things. There's quite a lot of apathy in charities because what's been happening is that they've progressively been having their funding cut, and because they've been so used to kind of getting their money through, an application every year to be granted a load of funds, they've kind of got used to that process, and of course now the government is slashing that. And this week, for example, the Watford Women's Centre has been told that their grant for operating certain services has just been taken away. So that's a real issue because what do they expect? These people to stop providing the services or something?
Right. So it's been completely taken away.
Yeah, I mean they I don't know exactly what the sum of money is, but they're not alone in having their funding cut. So, it's a really tricky time for charities, and one of the things that Link for Growth is obviously trying to do here is trying to encourage them to come along and meet other people, because it's not necessarily the money they need, it's the connections, because the connections can lead to things being done whereas historically they might have used money to pay for some of those services. They may be able to hook up with certain types of individuals who provide those services as part of their charitable giving, like a bit of their time, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of charities out there that didn't get the funding or don't get the funding to start with, aren't there? A lot of smaller charities too.
Well, this is the big problem. You've got the charities like like the hospices and stuff, and they do fantastic work in the area, but they also have quite a number of people on the payroll as well. And this is the big quandary with charity and stuff going forward, is if you've got organisations that have got a lot of overhead, the money that's being provided by people for the charity is being spent on all sorts of different things, not necessarily on what you've given the money for.
Yeah.
And that's a real challenge for charities, and it's a challenge for people, because I know that if I'm giving some money to a charity, I'd want 100% of that money going towards the cause that I've given it for, but it's not the case, rarely the case. But there are loads of small charities out there where where they're either unknown. They're like, for example, we've got one in Watford called the Watford Workshop, and they provide. I mentioned this I think last week, but they provide people with learning difficulties with an opportunity to do work in the local economy. It's very simple work, like light assembly, putting stuff in bags and stuff like that. But they go out, they're doing something constructive. They feel like they're contributing to society, and that charity is also having its funding severely cut or completely taken away. And if they don't generate these funds from somewhere, they are going to close, along with the associated misery that will cause those people that go along there.
Right, so that was the CSR lunch you mentioned, was it, the corporate social responsibility?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And people, charities and businesses together.
Yeah, but like all these things, you've got to get people. The problem with charities is that A, they don't know about these things, and B, they're a little bit apathetic because they think, well, we're busy already. We're really busy doing what we're doing. We don't have time to go along and network and meet other people. We're already, and even if we did, and we were more well known, we'd end up with loads more work, and we haven't got the resources to deal with it. So there's this whole apathy about it, and yet they're doing fantastic work in the community, and they do need to change. Otherwise, like a lot of things that are out there right now, they will disappear.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So that's it, really, for the event.
That it for this week? Last week? Not this week?
Well, yeah. I mean, we were on the market again this morning, and that it wasn't an official event, but we were down there, and I managed to catch up with a few people. I'm going to talk in a minute, and in fact, it leads quite nicely on to the next section, really, which is about the kind of news that's happened this week. And one of the things I went along to this week was I was invited along to it was Wednesday evening, which was the market traders of Watford, of which there's 46 traders, had a meeting to talk about how they're going to market the market, how they're going to make that into a success. And this is a huge challenge because, as I said last week, the market's been moved uptown. It's been what I would call marginalised. A lot of people feel the same way. A lot of negative press out there already about this, and Watford Council have effectively signed the lease over and the operation of it to a company called Town and Country. Town and Country operate a number of markets around the country, some in London. I think the Watford market is one of the smallest, if not the smallest one they operate. And the promotion of this market and the resources that Town and Country can throw into making this market a success are relatively small. So at the end of the day, it comes down to, well, who's going to make this work? And the bottom line is, it's going to have to be the market traders. And I was speaking to one of the people involved in sort of helping to get the marketing up and running this morning, and it's bleak. There's only two options, two outcomes for this. One is it's successful. The other is that these people go out of business.
Yeah, yeah.
To be absolutely truthful with them, they don't know what they're doing, and they don't know how to market the actual place. So that's where we come in. That's where we've got to kind of get a strategy together. So there are a couple of people down there that are on Facebook. They've set up a Facebook page for the market. I will be setting up a Google Plus, Google Plus community actually for the market traders, so that we can bring them into a space where we can have business pages set up for them. They don't necessarily have to do those themselves, but then we've got representation for them online, and we can take that forward for them and actually get them a bit of a bit of publicity locally and start turning it into almost like an EastEnders of Watford, if you like, trying to get some video done and get some TV done, maybe get these people in front of the audience and communicate that they're local people, they're nice people, they're characters, they've got stories, and they're actually going along there and helping the local community is a good idea.
Right. Have you spoken to them about that?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
So Sweetie Sue's videos.
Yeah. And to be honest, we're I did another video this morning. A guy called Dan who sells comic magazines, US comic magazines. It's quite interesting. I'll be putting his video up shortly.
Okay.
It's only 3 minutes, but he sells. I mean, I just had no idea. I mean, it's a bit like the old vinyl record market. In fact, he said it's very similar in that, like a magazine from the 60s or the 70s, a US magazine will fetch about Batman or something. Will fetch £8.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's just a whole new world. I had no idea. And he said he's got some in his cabinet which are over £100.
Wow. For a comic.
For a comic, yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all happening in the background, and I was talking to a guy who's the partner of Sweetie, seeing as you mentioned it, and he wrote a letter which was printed in the Watford Observer this week, the local newspaper, basically saying what a complete disappointment the official launch of the market, not yesterday but the Friday before, was. The whole thing just didn't happen, and a bit, no respect really given to the market traders, and the whole thing was outside of the market. So it was like, well, hang on, we're opening the market, but none of this stuff that's happening in the market. It was kind of a real bizarre thing, and he wrote quite an angry letter to the newspaper, and it was featured there today. And interesting. Walking around the market today, and I mean the last week has seen the first frosts down here in good old Watford, and although it wasn't cold on the market particularly this morning, I would say it was probably 12 or 13 degrees, but with a fairly reasonable wind, not a strong wind, but a reasonable wind. It was pretty chilly down there, and the effect on the cafe where we have our coffee was that instead of every table being used, we were one of 2 tables being used. Right. So you can see the impact already when we're not even in the winter. In January or February, there's going to be nobody sitting outside. Yeah,
that's it. I've just been to Saltburn Farmers Market up here, but it was real raining. Absolutely, people were getting soaked through. So it was still fairly busy, and a lot of the stalls had actually sold out. But yeah, it wasn't maybe as busy. It's probably been busier this morning when I wasn't there.
All right, yeah. So anyway, so that's kind of a bit about the Watford market, and then we've got some other just bits and pieces that I picked up in the week. A little while back, we had a real problem with a controlled parking proposition in North Watford, actually, which is not far from Watford Junction Station, and people and the council was looking to implement controlled parking, but the problem is that there is actually a high street in North Watford, and all the traders up there and the shop owners said, if you start controlling where are our employees going to park their cars, where are we going to park our cars to come to work every day? And I noticed this week that the same kind of story has been going on in West Watford, and they had a vote this week to honour a controlled parking scheme down there, and again, there's all sorts of issues with local residents not able to park and local businesses and everything else. Anyway, it was a 55% majority to not implement controlled parking in that part of Watford, which is quite interesting.
So how does controlled parking work?
Say that again?
How does controlled parking work?
Well, basically, it would mean that between certain hours you can't park there or something like that, and maybe it's residents only in certain sections as well. So it just basically means that it's not free parking, basically.
We did go up here, that's why I was asking. I wasn't quite entirely sure what you meant it looked like. Up here in just the streets where I live, it's now controlled parking. It prevented people from parking in the streets and free, and it did have a direct impact on the town. I mean, that was a long time ago now, a good few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking to Deeper earlier in the week, and yeah, there's an event this week launching in Hendon, and Deeper is going to drive to one station because it's like one for the day or something, and then catch a train to Hendon because at Hendon it's like £4 or £5 to park the car. Yeah, actually, and we were talking about parking in places like Harrow and other places where if you've got reasonable parking climate, it means that people will come into the town and they will shop and they will spend money. And if you get the parking wrong, and Ealing is what the area we were talking about. They've got the parking now so that you literally was it Ealing? Well, it was anyway. It's down that way, and you can't park. So and that's Saturdays and Sundays as well now. It's all controlled parking the whole week. So basically, where are people going to go and park? How can they get to the place? And the only answer is on public transport. So it really does seriously impact the trading conditions of an area if you get the parking wrong.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So anyway, so that's that. And then, so 1,600 companies, apparently, according to Richard Harrington, have taken advantage of the scheme by the government. This is in Watford, of the scheme by the government to reduce the national insurance contributions for employing people under 21 joining an organisation, which equates to, I don't know how much it is, but a fair chunk of change, and how that's basically enabled employers locally to take on more people. And we were talking about this morning, and the coffee on the market, and although on paper it seems like a great scheme because it gives employers the incentive to employ people, but I'm an employer and I know a lot of employers too, and they all say to me the last thing they will do is hire someone. That's the last thing that they will do. If they can't find another solution for whatever the issue is, i.e. streamlining the business, employing new technology, changing software systems, doing something or other, the last thing they'll do is they'll say, well, do you know what, we need someone. So I don't know whether what this amounts to, the way I see it, and the apprentice scheme is a similar thing, is that what it does is it enables people to take on people temporarily at a reduced amount of pay because they're getting this contribution, which means they're effectively paying lower than the minimum wage. Now, I'm not saying the minimum wage is an issue, is good or bad or indifferent. I'm just saying that whereas on paper it looks like jobs are being created, I'm just questioning whether how many of those jobs are permanent and how many of those jobs are just about getting someone in to do something because we need a spare pair of hands right now, and this looks like a low-cost option.
Right. There's a lot of 0-hour contracts out there as well, aren't there?
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know what that's like in Watford, but it's certainly prevalent, and the answer, of course, is not in job creation, because job creation is a misnomer. And there's a TED talk I watched which was quite interesting, which basically said that that if you ask any company in any business, you know, whether they would, the first thing they do when the government comes up with some scheme or other is the first thing they do is rush out and hire a load of employees. It's a complete nonsense. And actually all they're really doing is giving these companies more money, which in effect means they're giving people who are running the business, who probably earn quite well already, even more money. So, so you know, I'm not saying that there aren't ways of doing this, and I'm not saying that it's a good or a bad scheme. What I'm saying is that everything that comes up, that you try to manage a situation like this, is fraught with people trying to abuse it as well. And when people can abuse it, they will. You know, and the job market is changing. We are in a changing environment. So you know, but it was interesting that, you know, Richard Harrington, local MP, was saying that this is a real positive, and I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's a good thing, and I suspect there's a lot of good examples of where people have been able to take their business forward using this this scheme. But I'm not sure whether touting it as a fantastic success is quite accurate either.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, there's that, and the only other thing I wanted to say about this week, really, well, not this week, it's tonight, because tonight's the end of the week, as it were. We've got the obviously fireworks display has been going on all week in Watford. We've had our fair share of rain down here, and I'm sure there's been some fairly moist and damp, squibby evenings going on, but the weather looks like it might hold for tonight. But it's the big Canterbury Park Watford firework display tonight, which is I've been along to that a few times. I won't be there tonight, but it's always quite well attended. If you're looking to get along there, the activities start at 6 o'clock. Do get there early, because I know that all the streets that feed into Canterbury Park get absolutely chock-a-block, and the traffic jams are nonsense at tonight on this evening. So do get into Watford early if you come into that. The actual music starts at 6:30, and the bonfire is lit at 7. And they always have an enormous bonfire. You can see it for miles, that thing, when it's lit. Always seems to be cold there, though, for some reason. Don't know why that is. Big bonfire, but it's always cold. And it is quite chilly out there tonight. And the fireworks actually start at 7:30, and it's going to be 19 minutes long, the fire display. There you go. That's obviously a fairly well architected fire display, if they know it's going to last for 19 minutes. So that's happening tonight as well.
Right. I'm sure they used to last for much longer when I was a kid. Maybe it's just perception.
Well, you know, as a percentage of your life when you're a kid, it's a lot longer, isn't it? Yeah, so that's it. So that's oh, actually, yeah. So I've got some special things to talk about now, which I'm going to rush through these fairly quickly. But I mentioned earlier about the market, and what I want to say is that there are plans afoot to come up with some really good, interesting strategies for the market. So anybody that does actually watch this that's interested in participating on some of the plans we've got for the market, because as I said, it comes down to the market traders and the people of Watford to support the market. If we don't do it, it will disappear. So that's something that we need to get behind, and more on that as the weeks unfold.
So what is it you're looking for people? That
really, we want them to do a number of things. Well, they can get involved in helping to promote the market. They can get involved with going down there and buying stuff. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
or they can get involved in, you know, any aspect to do with the creation of content, or, you know, like people taking pictures and stuff like that. The more stuff we've got that gets the market in front of a wider audience, the better, really. So if you've got any local promotional stuff going on and you've got space on there, you can squeeze a little bit in there about the Watford market, then please do, because they're going to need all the help we can give them.
Right.
Talking about charities, you know, as we're developing the Watford website now, which I talked about last week, and all the stuff that we're doing to do with Watford is going on to the Watford website, and I will put up in the notes relating to this particular show how you can find that website, but it really is quite easy to find, and that website is going to be the hub for calendar for Watford and all the events happening in Watford. It's going to have all the Link for Growth events in there where you can meet up. It's already there. You can go there and look at that. It's got the TV shows like the one we're doing right now. It's also got links to all the different communities that we've got in Watford, like the Watford, Buy Local, Rickmansworth, Croxley, Leavesden, Abbots Langley, Meriden, all the different areas, Northwood, etc., etc. So it's a central point. And if you've got any stories, or you've got any articles, or you've got anything relating to charities, or anything, to be honest, then let us know, send it in, you know, or tell us about it so we can write something, give us some pictures, so we can put all that in a place where it can reach a much wider audience. So this is if you're thinking about articles, features, editorials that you would see in a newspaper, local newspaper, or a magazine or something, that's the kind of content that we're after. And I know the stories are out there, but it's just getting people to sort of recognise that they can actually get this to us and they can actually reach a much wider audience. And that's especially true of charities. We really do need charities to step up their game and get more involved with what we're doing, because it will raise their profile, it will remove that cloak of invisibility that they're all suffering from. And not this Thursday, but the Thursday week, which is the 20th of November, the Watford Women's Centre have got a charity. It's a wine tasting event for the Watford Women's Centre. They've still got tickets to sell there, and they do need more support. So, you know, do get in contact with us about that, because, you know, the Watford Women's Centre does some amazing work, and as I said earlier, they've had their funding completely removed. So they really do need our support. And we've also got, I think it's next weekend, the Michael Green Foundation have got their diabetes bus in Watford in the High Street, where they're giving people advice and guidance about how to avoid diabetes type 2, some ways they can get tested if you're worried about it, what symptoms are. So if you're a little bit concerned about that, about yourself or someone in your family, head off down there and talk to the people that are going to be manning that bus. There's going to be people there from the Michael Green Foundation, but also from Diabetes UK, helping out with that bus. So that's quite a good initiative as well. So that's it really about the specials. Just really just saying to people, you know, like, we've got this community hub thing going on now, which is going to be really representative of what's happening in Watford, but it is up to us to provide the content for it. And somebody I was talking to this morning, I said, you know, the concept of a newspaper to sell advertising space and is printed, the time of that kind of publication is coming to an end, and what it's going to be replaced by is a much more interactive, real-time, online web technology, which is exactly what Link for Growth is putting together for the community. So.
Right. So that's obviously charities can share their events or anything going on locally there. Is that similar for businesses that are involved with Link for Growth?
Absolutely. I mean, business is 30% of what goes on in the community. So, you know, we would be, you can't separate the two. In reality, it's the economic vibrancy of the community which drives some of the social and community elements, and you can't separate them. So independent businesses suffer in exactly the same way as these charities, in the, you know, ultimately, unless they get their message out there, no one can find them. And I know that, you know, advertising in the newspaper at £200 a week brings minimal results. You've got to do a 6-week, 8-week run. It's quite expensive. So actually, if we all started to talk to each other and we started to recommend each other because we know these businesses, then they wouldn't need to advertise in such a way. But there is enough business out there for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's about people voting with their feet, though, isn't it, and changing their spending habits.
Absolutely right. Yeah, no, you bang on.
Yeah. So, you ready for what's happening next week in Link for Growth? Where are you?
Right, next week we got some really interesting stuff next week. We've got on Wednesday we have the return of Link for Curry in September. I think it was something like September the 9th. I can't remember exactly, but we had the first curry in Watford under the Link for Growth banner, and we've got another one this Wednesday. It's not in the same venue. It's at the Raj Garden in Bushy. So we'll get that put onto the community website and reshared around. I think it's like a set meal for like £10 or something. So excellent value. I've never been to the Raj Garden, so I'm hoping it's all Alex has bigged it up to be. But we shall be going along there, and we'll report back next week. On Thursday, we've got the coffee at the Mercure Hotel, so that's on the A41. So if you're going to come to that, come in the main doors, go down the stairs. We're in the bar area from 10 AM. So that's always quite an interesting event. Comfy chairs, nice coffee, great conversation. So do please come along and be part of that. And on Saturday, we have an official Link for Coffee on the Watford Market. So this week's was unofficial. Next week's is back with you can book in for next week. So please do come along and say hi to the new Watford Market. And if you're interested in buying some bits and pieces, some fruit, some veg or fish, I mean, I've got some amazing fish in the market today. I'm making a fish pie tomorrow night. Very nice too. So I shall bring a picture of that to this event next week. And on Monday morning, just to give it a bit of an announcement, obviously this will come up next week as well, but on Monday morning we have this is not Monday this week, this is Monday the following week. We've got a launch at Ocean Bells Independent Coffee Company, which is down the Lower High Street. It's a coffee shop that Alex and I rave about. I believe they've got the best coffee in Watford, to be absolutely honest. They're quite quiet from about 10 till half 11. So please come and join us down there. Promise you lots of conversation. Promise you'll probably get a seat as well, and join us for some great coffee down there. So that's a week Monday for that one. I will mention it again next week, but stick a note in your diary and come down there and say hello.
That's a brand new event, is it?
That's a launch, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So,
anywhere else? Anything else happening? There's loads happening up here.
Well, we shall have to wait for your show, which is on in about an hour and a half. But no, I mean, as you know, I'm sort of all over the place. So I've got loads of news on loads of different things, but I'm just right now reporting on what's happening in Watford. There's probably loads more going on, but what I want to do is encourage people to tell me what the news is, rather than me have to go out there and try and find out what the news is that's going on. So, yeah, it's down to the good people of Watford to... I'll tell you what did happen, which I found out yesterday, was that the week before, on the Friday evening, the Watford Biz, which I go to, which is a business networking group, a very small single event that happens in Watford. It's just down the way from where I grew up as a kid, so I quite like to go down there. Some really nice people there. We have a fantastic breakfast there, and we had a charity quiz evening, and they raised £210 for the it's the what do they call it? Waterways Experience charity or trust at Nash Mills in between Watford and Hemel Hempstead, which Alex, his father, works for, and £210 was. I mean, there's about 70 volunteers involved in that charity, and no paid for staff. So every penny goes to the charity itself, which is something I mentioned earlier. So that was really good. So well done to that business networking group, and thanks to everybody that attended that. And I was there as well, so it was good event, good fun. And yeah, so excellent.
Very good, yeah. Very good. Cool, so is there anything else you want to share?
No, that's it for this week. Catch up with everybody again next Saturday. No, it's actually will be next Friday. Actually, so yes, it's unusual that it's today's Saturday. I forgot that. But yeah, next week you'll be back on Friday at 4 o'clock.
Right. Brilliant. Okay. Right. Well, I shall pop off, go and get sorted for doing mine, and I shall catch you next time.
Okay, so take care then, and see you maybe next week.
You too. See you later.
Bye.